Buenas and half a day, everyone. This informational hearing by the Committee on Air Transportation, Parks, Tourism, Higher Education, and the Advancement of Women, Youth, and Senior Citizens is hereby called to order. Today is Friday, May 14th, 2021, and the time now is 2:03 p.m. For the record and in accordance with open government law, notices for this hearing were sent on May 7th, 2021, and again on May 12th, 2021. In addition, this hearing was noticed on the Guam Legislature's website. Joining me for this afternoon's hearing is my colleague and committee member, Senator Tony Addis. Senator. Before you proceed with the discussion of items on the agenda, I'd like to first provide the general rules of conduct for this hearing. The chair will invite individuals to testify. We have the panel here from the Guam Visitors Bureau. Individuals who are testifying today shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking, and we ask that you state your name and your position for the record. The order of questioning will begin with myself and Senator Ada, and we will have additional rounds if needed today. Each member, if there are others to join us, will be allowed to pose questions to individuals today. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of our agenda, and today's agenda is based on the Guam Visitors Bureau safely reopening tourism. So we will have a general information briefing and update from the Bureau today. As the chair on tourism, I hope that we can work together to increase Guam's efforts to aid our main economic sector towards recovery and find new ways to develop resilience. We have learned through the pandemic that tourism is one of the most important aspects of our economy, and it's important that we try and develop ways to protect it against any future disasters. I also want to underscore the need to welcome our visitors in the safest way possible, and most importantly, protect our tourism employees and our people. As we continue to fight the COVID-19 pandemic and return to the sense of normalcy, it is imperative that we get our tourism industry up and running again, and that we do it in the safest way possible. It has been over a year since we have had to close down the island to our tourists, but through a diligent commitment to ensuring that our local people are protected first, we are now almost ready to welcome our tourists once again. The governor's recent easing of quarantine restrictions for incoming travelers has shown that we can take these steps forward to welcoming our tourists back on island, and it is through these cautious steps that we have been able to keep our people and our island safe, with over half of our local population now vaccinated. I look forward to working with Governor Lou Leon Guerrero to find ways to use the American Rescue Plan funds to assist the Guam Visitors Bureau as much as we can, so that as we begin to bring our tourists back on island, we can also diligently continue to fight this pandemic, while also allowing our island's people and our visitors to enjoy life on Guam. GVB has continued to play an instrumental role in helping the island move forward past the pandemic, and I look forward to today's discussion and update from the Guam Visitors Bureau. I'd like to welcome my colleague, Senator Tello Taidagui. Thank you very much, Senator, for joining us today. And we have here with us on the panel, President and CEO of GVB, the Honorable Carl T.C. Gutierrez, Vice President of GVB, Dr. Jerry Perez, Chairman of the Guam Visitors Bureau Board of Directors, Mr. Milton Morinaga, and Director of Global Marketing, Guam Visitors Bureau, Ms. Nadine Leon Guerrero. Sidus Masi, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll give you the floor, whoever is to begin with the presentation. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just a brief overview, because I think Nadine and Jerry have a presentation to make, which is very informational. But this, last year, you were not the chair of the GVB, and Mr. Morinaga here was not the chairman. But Jerry and I had just come on as the president and CEO and the vice president. And we came in with working with a budget of approximately, cut down from almost $23 million for the 2020 budget. But in March of 15th of 2020, we were severely impacted with the TAF. And so when we came down to this legislature for our budget, for the 2021 budget, we were given 6 million. Can you imagine, from 23 to 6 million? So we were really, the chairman has been trying to figure out how to get ourselves moving, because this is our lifeline, GVB and the tourists. So we are at the point now of seeing some daylight with the lifting of some of the restrictions that impede our tourists from our source markets from coming in. We are trying to be innovative, of trying to bring in other than non-United States citizens from the Asia-Pacific countries under a program that GVB has dubbed as AirVNV, Air Vaccination and Vacation. And it has some legs now. We made front page of the Manila Bulletin. I just got a message from the American Chambers of Commerce of the Philippines to be on Zoom with them on next Friday, because they heard about this program. They want more. So we just received an authorization of $1 million this afternoon, around noon, to begin marketing for the American expatriates and the dual citizens of the Philippines, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, South Korea. And then subsequently, hopefully that we would come up with another $2 million to market it for the non-US tourists, to try to entice them to come here so that they can get vaccinated, because their countries are very, very slow in rolling out the vaccinations. So once we see that this is a workable concept, the AirVNV, I believe that it can sustain us for a while, get our people working, get the hotels and the restaurants coming up to seeing more customers. As a matter of fact, right now the people are really quite antsy to get out of their homes and to go out to dinner, go to the beach, go do some things that were prohibited over the last year and 2 or 3 months. So we're doing well, and with our budget, and I know that you're anxious also to see that Guam is spruced up in anticipation of the tourists coming back. We have been told by the governor that she would at least put $20 million aside from the federal funds, $661 million that she had received, and hopefully that we can build up and take care of Matapang Park and all of the drainage problems, starting from PIC all the way down to Fiesta Hotel. That's a big backlog of water going out to the subdrain at the Matapang Park, and that has to be repaired. So we're doing what we can with what we have. The lights are now being turned on on San Vittori's Road. We are working very well with a man at the Department of Parks and Recreation. His name is Rocky Alcantara. He is a take-charge man. He is doing more than I think anyone can do by himself there at the range. So we're working well. Vince Areola is working very well with us. He has now, if you notice, if you drive down to this parking structure in Tumon, where the homeless are, you'll see that the owners are now, they've got trucks in there, they've got all kinds of equipment, they're cleaning the place up, they're fencing it off. I don't know what's going to happen to the homeless, but at least they're taking care of that really big blight there. So Vince Areola has been doing well in knocking down the derelict buildings in Tumon in preparation of this, and hopefully we won't have those homeless people down there en masse coming to Tumon, because they are still doing some crazy, dastardly things for our own people that go use the beach. Purses are still being stolen. Rocks are being thrown at our people. So we have something, to work on some more ourselves without having to wait for the tourists to come in. Let's spruce up the island. So with that, Milton, you want to say something first? Okay, so Jerry, do you want to go with the presentation?
I'm going to turn off the...
Dr. Perez, just before you begin, I'd like to also recognize my Vice Chair of the committee, Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, and Senator Joanne Brown. Thank you very much, colleagues, for joining me today.
Thank you very much. President Carl mentioned the roll down in our budget from previous years of 23, 24 million. This year we'll have to live with $6 million. So, Senator Ada, now you know why we have small bag of peanuts for lunch today. Okay, I want to just get started with the presentation and just give you, first of all, an overview of what has happened since the pandemic shutdown, March 2020. As you know, President Carl and I didn't get on board until like June, but this takes you back this far. And so for the last year, what GVB has been doing is focusing our resources toward COVID containment. We've been deploying all our marketing and PR capabilities to assist the governor and the healthcare professionals here to contain and manage the pandemic issues. At the same time, we have not gone dark in our market. While we're shut down, we continue to communicate with our source markets, communicating travel aspirations for Guam, messaging them on our COVID containment progress and some of the local efforts we are doing to provide a health safety destination experience once they start traveling. We're also preparing our destination for reopening, and to what Governor Carl was saying, we're improving or trying to improve our tourism physical plant, our attractions, and a lot of the flood mitigation that has been plaguing us down in Tumon Bay, we're also addressing that, and trying to eliminate or mitigate the visual blight in not only in Tumon, but in a lot of our scenic roadway corridors throughout the island. And I know that Governor Carl had mentioned Public Works and Parks and Recreation doing a great job, but I would acknowledge that the mayors themselves on an island-wide basis have really stepped up to the plate and have done a lot of improvements in the different villages. We're also trying at the same time to retool our tourism business models through increasing use of technology, upskilling HR capabilities of the island, and encouraging more touchless experience in the value chain of our tourism industry because, as you know, the whole paradigm of the tourism industry is migrating away from this touchy-feeling, holding hands, crowd environment, all antithesis of the new paradigm in COVID management. So that's going on. So in terms of the overview, I would just like to bring us back to when we first met here. We mentioned at the time that unlike past setbacks, where we had V-shaped recovery from typhoons, from the global recession of 2008, and even SARS. SARS took us 5 months to get back to pre-COVID, to pre-SARS levels. The COVID pandemic is different. It is more profound in its widespread impact, disrupting economies globally, hurting the health and well-being of communities, and causing bankruptcies across all economic sectors. The estimated loss from tourism has been projected at $1.3 trillion. That's more than 60 or 70% of the global tourism economy. This is 11 times the economic loss from the global recession in 2008. So there's overall diminished travel demand, which is widespread in terms of unemployment, travel restrictions, fundamental disruptions in the scale, the configuration, and consumer sentiment of the entire industry value chain. So the outlook for Guam, and not just for Guam, but globally, is not very cheerful in the near term. The current consensus by people in the World Trade and Tourism Council, the UNWTO, ICAO, IATA, and even our closest affiliate, the Pacific Asia Travel Association, they don't anticipate recovery in the tourism volume before 2024. So that kind of gives you a background on what we're faced. PATA's mid-range scenario is 3/4 of 2019 volume, but PATA did have a severe scenario saying that will probably be less than 50% of 2019 volume at the end of the day. And this is the category that Guam finds itself because our key source markets are in East Asia, which is not only locked down, but also forms 85 to 90% of our business. Unlike Hawaii, for example, where they're still getting a lot of tourists because 70 or 80% of their business is North American and they keep coming. So the last time we met here, we figured at least 5% of pre-COVID level arrivals, or 82,000. Even this, Senator, is in jeopardy. We're not even sure we would achieve 82,000 for the rest of the fiscal year. A lot would depend on how much we can ramp up in the last quarter of the fiscal year. This gives you an idea, basically, of the global tourism impact. During SARS, we only lost about 2 million travelers globally. The economic recession of 2008, we lost internationally 11 million travelers. COVID, this is where we are. So you can see how dramatic drop the volume of international travel had become. So the road to recovery is what I'm going to discuss now in terms of an assessment. I want to share with you some of the strategic initiatives that are in play at the GVB and give you a quick update on the governor's reopening task force progress. I wanted to put this up because Guam itself, this is what our arrivals are like. If you look at the end of fiscal year 2020, we achieved a level of arrivals that takes us to the 1980s arrival level, only because early in the fiscal year, we had a robust 3 to 4 months. But year to date, if you see this bottom red line, that's our rate of arrivals, basically. Mostly military, mostly civilian, business, visiting friends and relatives. So you can see that we're a long way below. And this takes us back to like 1970s level. This just gives you a recap of the seat capacity to Guam, where we had like, a big drop, as you can see in that bottom purple line. Our arrivals impact, of course, are even more dramatic. And the impact to our tourist attraction fund, as you can see in the bottom left there, is we're not getting zero income, but it's nowhere near the monthly take that we're getting to sustain our operations. So the main source markets continue to struggle with COVID containment. Japan, as you know, is especially hard hit with the variants, and they're now going through their fourth wave, and their attention is more focused on trying to pull out the Olympics, or try to put on the Olympics. Our Korean market trajectory is more promising near term. 2.6 million have been vaccinated already as of end of April. They are ramped up to try to do 12 million by June. And what's more encouraging from the Korean market is that no self-quarantine for people returning after they've been fully vaccinated and when they come back to Korea. So this is really good news in terms of seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. This gives you an idea of the level of vaccinations taking place. You can see the top line there is Korea, is actually only about 5 or 7%, and the middle green line there is Japan, and Taiwan is down at the bottom. And if you look at that, if you compare these countries with less than 10% vaccination rate, and you look at that 57% on the right, that's us. So for the last year, there have been a lot of pain associated with the containment of the COVID situation. There are a lot of different opinions on how it should be handled, how it should not be handled. But at the end of the day, we can say that Guam's effort at containing the COVID was pretty aggressive. And a lot of aggressive measures were taken since the second wave hit us last summer and fall. And we've had pretty good results. Our CAR score, for example, we have the ideal CAR score is like 2.5 or under. And so we've been well below 2.5 score since December 3. Even with the latest spike in cases, we're still below the 2.5 threshold. That pretty much brought the discussion of reopening the tourism industry on May 1st. So in preparation for the anticipated opening around May 1st, initially when it was thought, the governor stood up a tourism reopening task force and asked GVB to lead that task force using GVB management and resources in collaboration with the Surgeon Cell, Public Health, Airport, GHRA, and with GITA on some of the liquidity initiatives that we needed to deal with small business, DPW, the Parks and Recreation, and the Mayor's Council. So May 1 opening was a goal that was set in sometime in February or March. So by now you know that May 1st reopening was postponed, and that was kind of a disappointment because of the spike in positive cases. But despite that, our CAR score today remains 0.4, well below the 2.5 benchmark. On May 15, today, it looks like the new public health protocols have been rolled out that will not require quarantine for fully vaccinated travelers, particularly our local residents who come and go, who don't have to basically be quarantined if they're fully vaccinated. So that's really good news. And it's yet another positive nugget in this tapestry of encouraging signs. So the path to half goal has been achieved, but it's no secret that the next 25 to 30% would be more difficult to achieve for many different reasons. And so we need to do a major focus to achieve 80% goal by July. In ramping up for this reopening, the Tourism Reopening Task Force was focused on 3 strategic initiatives for the opening. First and most important initiative was to scale up the vaccinations and support the governor's path to 50 goal. The issue is to try to secure enough vaccine inventory and dispensing capabilities. And more importantly, if we're going to open, we need to make sure that our frontline workers are vaccinated, and our frontline workers have also relationships at home, so we also need to make sure that the general community is not neglected. So when we say frontline workers, we're not only talking about people working in the tourism industry, but these workers have families and friends away from workplace that are also important in terms of getting vaccinated. The second thing that we had to do, or are continuing to work on, is preparing the destination. Governor Carl had alluded to some of it earlier in terms of preparing the destination, but it's essentially cleaning up, sprucing up, fixing the flood mitigation issues down in Tumon with the culverts, and trying to bring a little bit more beautification to the island. And the other initiative that we wanted to do in relation to preparing the destination is, if we're going to advertise Guam as a safe destination experience for people to have, then we need to live up to that. And so we've been embarked on a program that is sponsored by Public Health, the University of Guam, and the World Travel and Tourism Council. This safe destination program, WTTC designated credentials. And so we're expanding this WTTC and Guam Safe certifications as much as we can. The more businesses that sign up and can signify in their doors this WTTC Safe certification, the better off we're going to be. So our long-term goal, not long-term, but our ultimate goal is to have enough critical mass of these businesses that are safe labeled so that we can advertise the whole island as being a safe destination, not just one or two businesses. The third initiative that we embarked on is having a communications strategy. This communication strategy really is twofold. First, it really should be addressed to the people of Guam and to try to promote the vaccinations by target demographics, to share the results of vaccinations with the frontline workers, to make people feel on Guam safe that when we do open, they are protected. So we're trying to promote community-wide vaccinations to try to generate the herd immunity target of 80% by July. And so maybe we don't hit 80%, maybe we hit 70% or 75%, or maybe not so far off that, but the idea is to aspire to this goal to enhance our herd immunity goal. The second piece of this communication strategy is our source markets. Our source markets, we continue to message them on the local progress we're making in making Guam a safe destination experience. And we're also giving them initiatives to prepare a destination for reopening, communicating with them through social media, through different advertising campaigns. I know that early on we shared this with you at our last informational hearing, where we had GUAM give us a moment as we prepare our destination and we continue to take care of our attractions and cleaning up and so forth. And then we're at the cusp now of transitioning to another GUAM, Get Up and Move, which is a call to action to generate business for Guam, right? So while we're waiting for that, we continue to communicate our source markets, to travel to Guam and to promote travel aspirations for the island. So progress to date on this reopening initiative is, as I mentioned earlier, we've reached the path to half vaccination goal, and we're basically nearing 60% vaccinated for eligible residents age 16 and over. The next industry clinic is at the Hyatt on May 25th. What we've done in terms of accelerating the vaccination program is not only relying on the University of Guam vaccination site, but also is setting up some vaccination clinics down in Tumon, where it's very convenient for employees who work in the area, so they don't have to go all the way to UOG and actually have vaccination done in Tumon. And by the way, these clinics are not just for people who work in the Tumon area, but anybody can basically book an appointment during these clinics down at Hyatt. So, as I said earlier, the May 1st reopening was a disappointment, but our CAR score is holding well, and we're still optimistic on the new public health arrivals protocols that has been announced just recently. and the path to half has been achieved. But like I mentioned earlier, 30% more is going to be difficult to get. Just give you some visuals on some of the activities in the vaccination clinic, like down at the Hyatt, for example. Even people out in the grassroots area, in different areas. Public health has expanded basically their reach and making it more convenient now to access vaccinations. And so this has helped a lot in terms of achieving the path to 50 goal. In terms of preparing the destination, the board a couple months ago did a complete tour of the island's attractions to identify areas that really we need to pay attention to. This is new equipment that arrived on island by one of our vendors, which would make it more easy to clean the culverts down in Tumon. Last year when we were cleaning the culverts, it was done a combination of a pump truck, not like this, but 2 or 3 people had to go down in the culverts, and it's very dangerous. So our vendor was able to purchase this equipment so that we can do it a lot quicker now and a lot safer. I'm just showing you some shots on preparing the destination. You know, the Island Beautification Task Force by the Lieutenant Governor and the mayors and the businesses and different organizations. It really was heartening to see all hands on deck for the most part. We tried this once, if you recall, in August last year when we were on the cusp of trying to reopen. But I think we had an even better turnout this year in terms of the impact to what was clean. We even had people all over the island, including the military. This is from the submarine tender here, down in Tumon Bay, cleaning up the Ipaw Beach Park. Now, I would just share that this was done on a Thursday. And then on a Saturday, this is what was picked up, just 2 days later. That was Saturday. The next day, Sunday, this is what we saw. So we really need to focus and do something about this litter and trash program. And we're pulling together a small team at GVB now to try to address this longer term, because this is not acceptable. We have some ideas on how this can be done, but 2 things come to mind right off the bat as we did some literature search on what other jurisdictions are doing. The first thing is litter begets litter. So in other destinations, when there are no litter bins or trash bins, they get littered, or whether there's not enough of them. So if you look at Ipaw Beach, for example, there isn't enough bins there, and so you can see why litter begets litter. And so that's one of the issues that we're looking at to work with Parks and Recreation to see if we have some remedial initiatives that we can do. This is the Safe Travels concept, Safe Travels campaign that I shared with you earlier. We now have on Guam more than 100 WTTC certified businesses. These are businesses who had to submit their protocols and their plans for being a safe business, whether it's a restaurant or a retail store or an office or a travel agent or whatever. They just apply online with GVB's actually the designated entity by WTTC to do the credentialing. So once they comply with the checklist of WTTC, we then harmonize that with the requirements of public health, and that's why you see two emblems there. The one on the right is a World Travel and Tourism Council emblem, and the one on the left is our own local public health Safe Guam emblem. These are just some of the businesses that have already enrolled. Like I say, there's over 100 of them, but this gives you a sampling of the variety of businesses that have already been credentialed as a safe business. We also, as part of our effort to migrate more and more to our technology, we've rolled out the electronic declaration form now at the airport, where you don't need to fill out those papers now. Right now you need to go to the kiosk and enter your name, and then the kiosk prints out a QR code that takes you through customs. In about another week or two, we're going to roll out the capability to download in your handheld device 3 days prior to arriving, so that you can have that convenience.
Half a day from the island of Guam. We have been hard at work in creating a safer travel experience for you and are proud to introduce the Guam Electronic Declaration Form. The EDF is a mandatory digital form that all arriving passengers will need to complete before entering our beautiful island. For those traveling in a group or as a family, only one form will need to be completed. You can enjoy the safety and convenience of the Guam EDF by accessing it anywhere using a mobile phone, personal computer, tablet, or any other Wi-Fi enabled device. You may also complete the form at any of our kiosks located in the baggage claim area of the Guam International Airport. Once you're ready, the process is simple. First, access and complete the form. Next, save your unique QR code. And finally, present and scan it with a Guam Customs officer upon arrival. And you're done. We'll see you soon.
The learning curve has improved a bit in the last couple weeks since this was rolled out, where the time it takes to clear customs now is less than 2 minutes. It started out longer than that, but as we go through the learning curve, it's down to less than 2 minutes. So the next phase of this program is to enable the ability of travelers to download that in their handheld devices 2-3 days before they even get to the island, or even on board. So in terms of our source markets, I mentioned earlier that we really never went dark. We continue to communicate with our source markets to make sure that we're still top of mind. And we're doing that in various ways. Apart from communicating with them about travel aspirations for Guam, we're also doing in-country research to try to understand better their psychographic reasons for travel, so that we can tailor-make our limited budget and appeal to that. We also are in constant contact with airlines and the travel agents, and continue our messaging on the social media, and continuing to explore, of course, niche market opportunities. The last piece that we were working on that Governor Carl had alluded to earlier, excuse me, is Air V&V. This is an opportunity to not only provide humanitarian support and simultaneously stimulate green shoots of economic recovery in the face of continued delays in our source market due to the persistent pandemic issues. GVB has received actually many inquiries for vaccination here in the past, but we never really focused on it because the priority had always been vaccination for local residents first, and that's paramount. But as we got closer to the 50% threshold goal that has been met, now it's time, I think, to open this up and see what kind of opportunities we have to generate vaccination on the island. So we have asked the governor for 1,500 vaccines to do a proof of concept test to see if this has any legs that we can go forward and really push through. And the GVB board just this afternoon or morning approved $1 million in marketing and promotion campaign to work on this project. This is going to be private sector driven, and it will involve the travel agents and Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association. And so right now, we are trying to finalize the details of an operating model with public health and the surgeon cell, because the concept, while simple, making it work get very, very complicated because there are many issues involved, not least the logistical issues, cost issues, public health supervision issues, and how all that is woven into creating 3 different packages that we were trying to promote, which is a budget package, a mid-range package, and a high-end package. So we have different hotels, different vendors here, different travel agents who are being encouraged as we speak to pull together 3 different packages. And so some of them actually have already texted me about like a typical a 2-day stay, including vaccination and taking care of all the transportation. Some of it, our travel agents are still communicating with the market and are still communicating with different vendors for pricing so that they can pull together something that makes sense. We know that the governor is very supportive of this program, and essentially this Airbnb program that Governor Carl mentioned is our attempt to jumpstart and scale up a tourism economy ahead of the volume-driven arrivals that we would be getting from Korea, Japan, and Taiwan, as well as the Philippines. So the governor supports this in concept, but like she explains to everybody, and us especially, even though she supports the concept, the local vaccinations are still the priority, and vaccinations would not be competitive with the local population's allocation. So we've requested an initial dose of 1,500 to do a proof of concept pilot test. Like I said, this is going to be private sector driven, and we're discussing now the operational details with the travel agencies and ground handlers and the clinics and tour operators. So we expect that this should be done in the next week or 2. Once we create our, the whole idea is to create like 3 different packages, a budget package, a mid-range package, and a high-end package that we include all inclusive services from arrival to departure, including arrangements to get your first vaccination shot, arrangement for your second vaccination shot, and controls in terms of the quarantine issues that we need to comply with. So the immediate benefits for this Airbnb is, like I said earlier, it's really jump-starting the tourism value chain that is atrophied from more than a year's shutdown. And so that was the $1 million marketing campaign that the board approved this morning. The second benefit, of course, is expanding the current business activity at hotels and restaurants beyond just the weekend staycations for local businesses, and it would encourage longer stays beyond 2 weeks. Then, of course, this is important in terms of incremental revenue from non-government funding source. All the revenues generating today, for the most part, are government subsidized from the federal government. This is an opportunity to bring non-government infusion into the economy. Other benefits, of course, is a positive geopolitical impact to our image in Asia. And it's pretty good PR optics for economic recovery starting to take place. The mid and long-term benefits is very simple. It's it's basically scaling up the financial viability of tourism-related businesses ahead of the volume-driven ones from Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. In terms of the messaging, like I alluded to earlier, scaling up the vaccination is very important, and it's important that we don't get off the pedal, pedal to the metal about maximizing vaccinations. And so one of the ways that we were doing this is communicating to people who are either not too interested or less conscious about getting vaccinated, and a lot of our younger millennials and younger people. So we have a series of ads I want to just share with you just as examples. You got the sound?
Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
Okay, is the sound on?
I received the COVID-19 vaccine because I trust in the science, and I want to bring football and the economy back on island. Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
Let's do our part for our sport and for our family. Get up and move and get vaccinated, Guam.
I got vaccinated to protect my family, myself, and the people I surround myself with every day. Get up and move and get vaccinated, Guam.
I got the COVID-19 vaccine because I wanted to protect the people of Guam, my family, and my teammates, and see things return back to normal again. Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
I got vaccinated to provide a safe training environment for my team and for travel to our international competitions. Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
I got vaccinated because I'm traveling this summer and I want to keep not only myself, but my team and the people around me safe. Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
So this Get Up and Move, GUAM, call to action, basically to intensify our campaign for vaccinations. And this is the schedule of what we had released. We started this end of April, and we're right in full stride now in pushing out these different ads on social media, as well as our local media.
I got vaccinated to protect my family, my friends, and to provide a healthy training environment for my clients. Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
I got vaccinated to
business-
protect my family, to keep my team and my customers safe, and to keep Guam healthy. Get up and move. Get vaccinated, Guam.
These are young business professionals. While we were waiting for this to be rolled out, we had our own internal vloggers, okay? Believe it or not, we have people in our GVB office. They've put out 6 different episodes already, and each episode is like 4 or 5 minutes long, so I won't play each one of them, but I'll give you a sampling that has been collapsed into one presentation.
Half a day. I'm Josh.
I'm Gabby. I'm Colleen.
I'm Ten.
I'm Nicole. My friends and I at the Guam Visitors Bureau are on a mission in this 6-part series
To find out how Guam is getting ready to welcome back visitors and keep our island paradise safe and healthy for everyone.
It's been over a year living in this COVID-19 pandemic.
It's time to re-energize our community, our tourism industry, and ourselves.
Are you ready?
Let's go, Guam!
So when you think of GVB, it's Guam Vloggers Bureau now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perez, and I commend the Visitors Bureau for all their work, the innovation in marketing, and what you're doing to demonstrate the efforts of everyone on Guam to prepare the destination and ensure that we're safe as island residents and preparing for the safety of our visitors as well. So thank you for that presentation. Governor, at the beginning you mentioned the support of the Governor Lilian Guerrero, of your efforts to receive some of the ARP money. And I wanted to mention here that all of our colleagues in the Guam legislature sent a letter of support, a letter of our priorities to the governor as well, and listing $38 million for the Guam Visitors Bureau that we all signed on to support the Bureau and your efforts to prepare and to fix some of those problems down in Tumon, so that we can be a better destination for our visitors and to improve everything for our island residents. So I wanted to mention that here, that we're looking forward to working together to ensure those funds are used wisely.
I was very pleasantly surprised when I saw the list that came out from the legislature. Of course, I hope that the governor sees that really, really well, and that we do need the $18 million for Matapang and the $20 million for us to effectively market against the big boys in Hawaii and elsewhere that are hungrier probably than us. So that is very, very welcome that you and your colleagues see fit that the GVB is really going to be the mainstay again of our economy, and we got to get it jump-started well.
Yes, thank you very much, Governor. And I think the presentation that you offered today was a good starting point for us as we are getting prepared for the new budget cycle, and we'll welcome you here again for your budget hearing. So some great background information for us to prepare for that. Governor, if you could give us some clarification about the V&V program that you mentioned in the beginning, and Dr. Perez that you also mentioned in your presentation. There was $1 million today approved for the marketing, and the 1,500 vaccines given by the governor for this project. Are we marketing specifically to U.S. citizens living abroad, or are we also marketing to anyone and everyone who wants to be a visitor here and get the vaccine?
At this time, the $1 million is to concentrate on the U.S. citizens, the expats, and the dual citizens who are particularly in the Philippines, since they were allowed to have dual citizenship. A lot of them do have it. But we had originally requested yesterday $3 million to do both. Because there's now a move for the pharmaceuticals to market their Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson into the private sector. But and we felt that if someone here in the private sector wants to avail themselves of those vaccines, and then we can start marketing towards the non-U.S. citizens. But we needed to figure out how to make the vaccines available, because we want the private sector does not want to go out there, and because you have to buy a set amount first. I think the first one is like 54,000 before they'll give you to start drawing down, and that's probably what 1.7 million. So none of those people are going to do that without the participation of a government agency like the Guam Visitors Bureau to ensure that they're safe that way. So that's the next step. Once we get this thing rolling on the Airbnb for the expatriates in the Asia Pacific region and worldwide, we might reach out that far. So then we go for the non-citizens.
Okay, thank you, Governor. Yes, Dr. Paris.
Yes, adding to that, the reason for the pilot test is there are many different working parts to the program in terms of all the arrangements, the logistics, and so forth. So the whole idea is to pilot test this so that we kind of know where the bumps are. So before we scale up to a level that can generate business that we hope we can handle after ironing out before scaling up, we need to understand what the issues are basically. So that's what Governor Carl was saying.
Okay, absolutely. Well, we look forward to the success of your program and seeing where it takes us as a viable option. I know that there was some discussion with the Visitors Bureau regarding a possible travel bubble with Taiwan, as Palau has just announced that they will open up a travel bubble with Taiwan. Is there any progress on that discussion and what we can look forward to?
Well, we were, of course, we would like to do that. There's, as a matter of fact, a request made to the TECO here, the Taiwan Economic Cultural Office, for a couple of GVB personnel to travel to Taiwan. We are now scaling up our Taiwan representative office there from just tourism, but it's now going to be called Guam Taiwan Office, which encompasses beyond tourism into economic development, hospital stays, tourism, airlines, cargo, agriculture, aquaculture. So this representative will represent not only the Guam Visitors Bureau, but the Guam Economic Development Authority, Guam International Airport Authority, and other areas, Department of Agriculture, and the Port Authority of Guam. We all chipped in to be able to make this thing work in one fell swoop instead of having different offices for different departments. So having worked that, the TACO office has sort of warned us that it is not going to be possible to move forward with any discussions on a bubble, simply because, well, they did that with Palau, but it became very, very expensive to fly to Palau, and then the hotels in Palau, for example, had to charge as little as possible to break even. And then when they're going to raise that up, it was just the media people and a very few government people that were going down there that they had to stop that because it didn't work right away. And that it has to be a two-way street is what they're saying, that they hope also that we travel back to Taiwan. And they don't see that happening till around November. So we kind of put that on hold, but our office is going to be constantly on top of it, and I hope that Taiwan is our best market. They're the biggest spenders when they come here. There's 23 million Taiwanese in Taiwan, and I think 17 million actually leave Taiwan on travel. So even if we only get 1% of that, you're talking about 200,000 from the 28,000 we got 2 years ago at the max. So Taiwan is a good market. They're America in China.
All right. I know we can be looking right now to the experience of Palau to see how we will move forward with that. Hopefully, a new project for the Bureau. And I wanted to ask also about a vaccine digital passport program that Hawaii just announced for their inter-island travel. Is that something that we can look at or we're already looking at for travel between our source markets and Guam?
Well, I'll ask Nadine. She's the one who's been working with the Surgeon Cell and Public Health on this matter.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an issue that we've been discussing with public health, but really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we say. It really, that question really ought to be posed to the appropriate people making those decisions. We'd like to see it.
Of course. Okay. Yes, Ms. Leon Guerrero.
Just to add that we are actually are communicating with the TECO office here and ask them to acknowledge the vaccination records of the expats, the U.S. citizens living in Taiwan. If they come to Guam to be vaccinated, if they could acknowledge their records. And I think that's just the start of a bigger relationship with the health relationship or vaccinations.
A lot of collaboration needed at this point.
Correct.
All righty. And now that we've just learned of the new quarantine, the ways to bypass quarantine as fully vaccinated returnees to Guam, is there any service that will be provided by the Bureau to visitors on Guam to ensure that they have all the correct documentation before landing on island?
That's a wonderful question. They just issued the guidance not too long ago. I mean, literally
about an
today.
hour ago. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is going to go through that, make sure that our website is up to date and that we have everything, and advise all of our in-country representatives and all of our contacts of what would be required. But at this point, we haven't done it yet.
Okay. All right. And I wanted to just talk about the preparing the destination of Guam. Thank you very much for your leadership and your work to clean up the island with the Earth Day cleanup we did last month all together with the government of Guam. And I know that one of the big concerns is the very big use of our parks, the Matapang Park, the Ipao Park, now that residents are really starting to get out and do more recreation. I know that the visitor safety officers were scaled down during the pandemic. Have they come back out in full force? Are we increasing the capacity with our visitor safety officers?
It's a budget issue, so we scale up or down based on the funding we have. And they'd love to be out there, do more, but at the end of the day, we have to live within our means.
Understand.
But to your point, there is room to expand their activities because you're quite right. More and more of our local residents are taking advantage of our beaches and parks that I've seen before.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Dr. Perez. I'll now let my Vice Speaker, Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes, if she has any comment or questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And you know, a lot of the questions that you asked, Madam Chair, were part of my increase to you. I do want to thank the panel members for being here and sharing this informational hearing draft to all of our colleagues, but more importantly to the listening audience, as it gives a true snapshot of how we're going to get back into bringing our tourism industry back to more than alive, that re-synergy that's needed. And you guys have been working really hard for it, and I really appreciate it, especially with the efforts that the locals are doing to help spruce up Guam. And one of the last questions that the chair had asked regarding the VSOs was, I wanted to know if the funding source that was provided already in the past fiscal year, has that been exhausted all, or when you talk about needing the resources, what are we looking at in as far as that amount that's needed for those, to keep those VSOs, and how many do we have?
I don't know exactly how many we have, but we do have enough funding at the current rate to last through the fiscal year. I can't give you the exact amount because I don't have my...
No worries, but for this fiscal year, right?
Yeah.
And they're still out now?
Yeah, they're not going to go dark for the rest of the fiscal year. They'll be out there.
Okay, thank you. And maybe even the recommendation, I do know that there's those citizen citations that can be afforded to them to be able to find those that are caught littering.
Yes.
And just another way to assist in the efforts of keeping our most beautiful park clean. I know that when the surveys were done about what they love most about the facilities here or the parks here, I think Ipoh Beach was ranked number 2, am I right? 2 or 3? Top 5 for sure. And that also is the parks, the main parks that GVB works closely with all our source markets. Are they closed on the evenings, or Ipoh Beach, is there a time set to open and close? And Matapang and those places?
So, there is a gate, and it does lock. You certainly could just walk around it if you want to. Essentially, it just closes off the parking lot. And I believe that's at 6 p.m.
But that's under the control of Parks and Recs and not GVB, right?
Correct.
That's
Parks
right.
and Recs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will tell you that the VSO has proven to be a lot more than originally envisioned. They have been very much in the front line of a lot of things, from burglary discoveries to front line when there's a fire, even fire rescue. And so they've been a godsend in terms of responding to local residents actually having issues down there. So we're really bullish at how well they perform and how much we need them.
Yeah, I really appreciate that comment, Mr. Perez, Dr. Perez, because I know that they do take it, to heart, and they do a lot of the work. The other thing that impressed me, Mr. President, is your efforts and the communication with our sister city, with a relationship with Taiwan as we continue to become closer and closer, not just in the advocacy for tourism itself, but even through the medical tourism aspect. And then the need for opening up even a bigger office in Guam, from Guam in Taiwan, because not just to be a visitor center or work for tourism, but to open it up for other stuff that Guam can be able to provide for those visiting tourists here. And if there's one thing I learned about visiting Taiwan is the mere fact that when we were there last year in February before the shutdown, they never really closed. And what they did was a concept that was really different was, let us help you by protecting you. Please wear your mask, please sanitize, please keep a little distance, and when you're eating, you're allowed to take it off, but when you're done, put it on. So they literally took lemons and turned them into lemonades and made it optimistic that when they spoke, they wanted to make sure that the priority was the tourists, right? Was because they felt that the visitors were the more important, the travelers were very important to them, and they wanted to make sure that their safety was intact. So the question to you, Mr. President, is that realization for opening up that office in Taiwan to bring a bigger perspective, not just tourism, but as equally important, everything else that we can be able to share back with Taiwan. Will that be realized sooner than later to both of you?
That would be realized because let me give a shout out to the TECO leadership there, the Director General Paul Yan and the Deputy General Director Stephen Hsu. They have immersed themselves in trying to build a relationship between Guam and Taiwan unseen in the past. This is something that they also want to develop, not only for benefit of Taiwan, but for the benefit of Guam as well. Now, when they came out and said that we wanted to do medical tourism, they went through the whole process of finding 5 major hospitals with 6 other associate hospitals around them. So we have 11 places that we can send our people to. They've designated for Guam that can take people there. So we're going to close that loop out when we get there, figure out all the different mechanics, and make that work. But they are really working as a partner here. I mean, I'm saying that he's a good ambassador for Guam in Taiwan. They both are, and we want to take advantage of that. So, yes, this is going to work. John Jacob Kanata at the airport has already reached out with the mayor of Taoyuan City, which is where the main airport is in Taipei. And we're going to hopefully get an airport relationship with Guam and Taoyuan. And then I foresee that gentleman that's a mayor now will be, in the next 2 years, year and a half, be the president of Taiwan. So we're working that relationship well, and he likes Guam. Yes. I made a call to him, and he loves Guam. And the mayor of Taichung was in this part of the world. He was ambassador to Marshall Islands. So he loves this area. So we're all having that personal relationship. That's what's going to make it work.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Paris, would you like to add to that?
No, the only thing I can add is that, speaking to his point, is that instead of having a tourism representative office there, we're standing up a Guam office to be in the same stature as California office, Texas office, to have a broader portfolio of interest rather than just tourism.
Thank you. I truly appreciate both comments from the two of you, because there was something that was also brought up that Guam can really capitalize on, working closely with our island sister of Taiwan, is agriculture, tourism, and the expertise that they have, and them wanting to share with Guam and build upon even with the products that they have. And I think that this is really important. You guys hit it right on the head, is advocating for this and working closely with them. They've been our sister city family since, I want to say, since before 1974. And I think that if we continue to capitalize on that, they too realize the relationship, and as far as lineage with the Austronesian connection, and they really take that to heart, and they feel that we're more than family. You know, we're a part of them, and I think with this capitalization, we can truly take advantage of all the successes that they have. We could talk about botanical gardens that we can start up. We've got beautiful places here, and that's something that they have so many of. And just their agriculture, tourism that they've also supported. I think that we can capitalize on all of that and then some. So I truly appreciate your presentation. And Madam Chair, thank you so very much for having this presentation, for this information hearing, because it just gives the people of Guam a better understanding, a better snapshot of what you guys continue to do even in this pandemic. And hopefully we can take these off sooner than later. I know that our governor is still very concerned about making sure the protections are there, but it's coming close. We're going to open, and I think we're more than ready. We just got to be able to give you the resources that you need, and we want to continue to work with that. So sign them off.
Let me just say, Madam Chair, that the Governor Lou Leon Guerrero specifically asked me if what we could do to, when we open that main office at the Guam, Taiwan office, and go beyond the tourism market. She really wants to do something with the cargo, air cargo to Guam and beyond. Just for a brief historical thing for you senators, back in 2006, it was under Felix Camacho's administration, when they applied for the cabotage waiver. Remember the airline? And of course, they did not give the passenger cabotage waiver, but they did give it for cargo. And so that the people from Taiwan, for example, could get their plane, come here, pick up cargo here, and go to Hawaii. That was approved. But however, they never availed themselves to it. It was on for 2 years, and people were like taken aback that it was approved so suddenly, that they didn't have a full cargo plane. They had passenger planes and put a few cargo in the belly, but that's not going to be enough. So by the time the 2 years lapsed, nobody ever went back to renew it. So I told the governor, we prepared the paperwork already, we're going to show it to her and have her apply again to the Department of Transportation. So we can get that. That thing would really work. And that's what Taiwan would like to see happen too.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I know that the sister city relationships have been very invaluable to Guam, especially during this pandemic, with their major support to our community and them stepping up to the plate. So thank you very much, Madam Chair. I again say thank you for giving me the opportunity as your vice chair to share some comments and some suggestions and hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Vice Speaker. And I just wanted to mention, on the note of visitor safety officers and the safety of our parks, I did introduce with a few of my colleagues here Bill number 95-36, which will allow for all peace officers to be able to enforce the alcohol-free zones in our parks. So hopefully that's something that we can address to help better support the VSOs and keep our parks safe. And now I'll open the floor to Senator Jim Moylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was really helpful for my understanding. I really appreciate the strategic initiatives for the reopening of the island, starting with the cleanup and having our safe destination, and especially with the certification of the WTTC. I think that's a great concept to get up and move. It's really a good idea. I as well, I appreciate all the island-wide cleanup through different groups that have participated, and all the hard work we've done, and many of us senators here were also participated at different locations. But it's just so disappointing when you see, like April 24th, we clean one destination, and then we come back with the military helping out from the USS Frank Cable and USS Emory on the April 22nd, or prior to that, and we cleaned up the same place, finding more rubbish again. And then island-wide cleanup again by other groups on April 24th. Just day after day, we just constantly litter our own island. It's just unfortunate. When it's not tourists and it's not military, it's just us here who live on Guam and just don't appreciate. So, you know, we had to do something, and I'm sure we can come to like what Dr. Paris was saying here, we produce the bins. Just put it there, or make it like what we see at Two Lovers Point with some private-public partnerships. We don't see that happening there because it's gated up and the security guard is there, and it's run by private companies, but also for the enjoyment of our public as well, possibly another initiative. I'm really looking forward to the success of the VMV with the investment that we put there. And I believe that this will really help to get our pilot test for the JK and T markets that we must need to bring back and kind of warm up during the start. And you mentioned, Governor, the constant contact, and Dr. Perez, with the airlines and travel agencies. But my concern, and just like you said, is the disappointment that we've had with the delay in the opening. And when we're in constant communication with the airlines and the travel agencies, if we tell them one day and then we don't set that day, I think that causes a lot of issues on, like the boy who cried wolf. And if we're relying on the CAR score, when we're still below the CAR score, even though we saw a small spike, it reminds me of that saying, to CAR or not to CAR. Is it that important to us if we go up a little? Or do we really want the economy to go back? So if you can just kind of explain, when we miss these projected dates, how does that affect what we project with the airlines? How does that affect what our private enterprise here on island? And how does it affect, shooting for this BMV? With the money that you project and all the coordination that has to go into this. If you don't
To
mind,
be
please.
fair to the governor, I know that there were a lot of disappointed people that the date and the protocols keep changing. But the situation is this: when we work with the Airbnb concept, it's for United States citizens to come in. There's no restrictions for them to leave the country where they're at right now because they're U.S. citizens. They can get out. The problem is that we are not under control of getting the tourists to leave Japan, Korea, Taiwan, for example, to come here as tourists because they're not letting them out. They're not ready to do that. So don't despair so much that we're losing something. We're not. The delay, I believe the people of Guam will appreciate that they'll have more time and feel safer as we move up to that herd immunity at 80%. And as we move forward, I think that the people will be more accepting because we're not losing any tourists that's going to come here. Japan Airlines make their own decision to say we're going to pull out all our schedules to Guam until after September 30. We don't control that. So there's nothing going to come from Japan. So there's nothing we're losing right now, Senator. I know it's disappointing. That's why we're hoping the governor will get 100% of the people can go to the restaurants so that our people can go. Right now, I can't get it to a restaurant. They're all standing outside because it's 75%. If we can do that, I think we got enough moving in our own community to be able to have our people go back in employment and get all of our, places cleaned up. So I think not despair too much. It's disappointing, but we're not losing anything.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Moylan. And now to the birthday girl, Senator Telo Taitagui. Happy birthday, Senator.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. We'll be down by the pool, Jerry, so if you want to head down after work, We live in the same building, Jerry and I, so appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. And all the hard work that you're doing, if anybody knows, I definitely know what it's like to be down at GVB and the work that you put into keeping not only a great destination to visit, but a safe destination, which is very important. I'm going to try and make this really quick. Are you putting any money in the U.S. market, considering most of the Asian countries right now don't have a full vaccination to bring them in? So are you setting aside funding for U.S. markets?
Yes, actually, majority of our social media actually starts in English, and so it's always pushed out to the mainland.
Okay, and how much funding are you putting in that market?
I don't remember that number off the top of my head. How much are we spending on
U.S. markets?
Yeah.
Because we know we're having a hard time bringing people in, but we can also bring, like those Chamorros who live, in California or in the mainland to come to Guam, and some of them have not even been vaccinated. Yeah. You talked about the V&V program, and this would bring a lot of people home. So staycation as well as bring the Chamorros home who've been on.
So if I recall correctly, Senator, the budget is $300,000 for social media. and another 20, I think, specifically for North America.
Okay.
Yeah, but excuse me, but that's a good idea. Actually, our focus has been out here.
Right.
But it's good that you bring that attention to us because I don't know the extent to which they don't have vaccines, but you're quite right.
Right.
They probably like to come here and spend time with family here, right? Where they get
And get vaccinated
yeah.
at the same time.
So that's,
yeah.
that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Also, you talked a little bit about Airbnb. It's great we have Airbnb, but the problem is we don't have enforcement to ensure that these individuals who have the license to do Airbnb are following the guidelines, et cetera. So, Jerry, even in our building, we're having some issues. They're actually going beyond, going like short-term rentals, and there needs to be some kind of enforcement with rev and tax to work hand in hand to oversee this, because it's nice to have it, but if you don't have enforcement to ensure that they're following the guidelines.
Yes.
Okay, so please look into that, because Jerry, like I said, if I see you later tonight,
Sure.
We have a problem within our own building, because most condominiums do not allow short-term, travel, and people are taking advantage of it and breaking the law to do this, and we want to be in compliance, okay? We don't want to give Airbnb a bad name,
Sure.
in other words, okay? So the enforcement is important.
I'm sorry, but were you talking about Airbnb or VNV?
No, Airbnb.
B?
B as in boy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But, I
Airbnb,
thought
sorry.
Because all we're going to give them is a shot.
No,
and
the
tell them
Airbnb, yeah, no, that's different. It's the mask. Hi, Jacob. Okay. No, it's my accent. Okay, the other one is cameras. Cameras. We've given money to the police department to upgrade some of their areas. I know that there's still cameras that are down in Tumon area, but we need to start expanding those cameras to places like Seti Bay, all these tourist areas that are coming, even in Hagåtña. Cameras are so important. It will help with the enforcement. I've been pushing that, and we had a deal with Docomo. I don't know if that's still standing for the one in Tumon, but if you can please look at putting some funding for cameras, okay? It's going to really help us. And it's not just, being able to catch the perpetrators, but it's also to be able to, ensure that they're convicted.
You provided that 200,000, didn't you, Senator?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, but we're working with the police on that. I'm not sure exactly where it's at now, but I did bring that up a couple of times now.
Thank you so much, and maybe if you can set aside some funding for the cameras too, that's going to be very helpful and provide that safe and security destination that many people want to go look after. And also, continue the work outside of Tumon. I know, Governor, you've been a real advocate right there. Guam is not just Tumon, Guam is the whole entire island, and people need to experience that. So I appreciate the work. I just want to do a shout out for that because I know you're advocating for it, and I'm standing right beside you to push for that. Addressing the
May I suggest something?
Sure.
And this is just for a test of concept, because I did it when I was governor. I did it with Laddystone Park. But I think you probably have to draft some kind of legislation to be able to accomplish this. Take, for example, Inalahan. The Inalahan. Inalahan. I'm sorry. Inalahan. I've been at home with COVID. Inalahan. That the pool and the restrooms there, it's very difficult to just leave it unmanned as other places in the parks. So the concept is this, and I spoke with Mayor Tony Chargaloff, and he likes the concept. And I said the way I had to do it was because the law have you go out and bid all these things out, right? But to make money available, whether you give them $50,000, for example, build up the infrastructure there, build the whole, but the $50,000 is for the mayor to go out and all those families that are not working or have children that, they're just jobless, is that they put their names in the hat. And they would draw, let's say, 2 families, one in the day, one in the night. And they draw, you give them the equipment necessary to watch it, keep it thing, and it comes from the village if they have to draw by name. but you provide that legislation and do a model for Inalahan. Because that is the most used bathroom down there if it's open.
Yes.
And they have to fix up that little pool there. There's some things that they need to do, and they're ready to do it. But do the concept of having the people in that village maintain it 24 hours a day with that kind of a lottery.
Thank you, Governor. And I know that as yourself, the ARA funding given to GVB, there is also funding that's going to be given to the mayors just for beautification projects. And this will go hand in hand for any initiatives they need to move forward. You mentioned about the culvert cleaning. I know, Jerry, since you've been there, we were wondering when this culvert cleaning was going to happen. I'm glad to see it's being done. But also what needs to be addressed are these businesses that are pumping water from the back of their businesses onto the streets of Tumon. And this is a safety issue. It's also in violation of EPA. So we haven't, knock on wood, haven't had this is better wood, had a big storm. But when that storm comes out, please be conscious of those businesses that are pumping water out to the streets. And they might still be doing that. I'd asked the chairwoman about what WTTC meant, and it comes out to World Travel Tourism Council. And in this section of your presentation, you put down expand WTTC and Guam Safe certifications. Can you kind of just shortly elaborate on?
Yeah, WTTC has a standard that businesses need to comply with for them to get that safe travel destination, okay? But we also need to harmonize that with local public health requirements. So in point of fact, actually our local public health requirements are a little bit more stringent than WTTC. So we wanted to make sure before, because the WTTC designation comes after public health reviews it, okay? And so the designation you see, Guam Safe, that's actually a locally identified designation that our own standards are also met. So it's good to have both of them there because it has an international recognized standard, and then for our own local destination, we have we'll have that compliance with public health requirements.
Can we find that online, Jerry, the WTTC requirements that you're talking about? Can we find that online?
Yeah.
Online? Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
I'll look at it.
Find it online. Actually, different businesses, different criteria. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Great. I'll look at that a little bit more. Okay, so $1 million is for the V as in Victor and V. The Air VNV program, $1 million is set aside for that. What was the cost for the EDF program that you put in? And also, can you just give me also the cost for the Get Up and Move, as well as Let's Get Guam Going? What were the budgets for those?
The EDF program, I think we invested about $250,000 for that.
Okay.
The Get Up and Move program is not really fully implemented yet. It's just give us a moment. That has been, so you want to just speak to that, Nadine?
Yeah. And how much do you
talking
plan on
about
spending?
The amount?
Yeah. How much do you plan on spending for the Get Up and Move and Let Guam Go?
So for the Give Us a Moment, really, it's just been organic sharing of all of our creatives, simply because we knew we weren't going to get new funding. So just trying to be smart and keep the money so that when we're ready to get up and move, we could spend more. So right now, for the Get Up and Move, again, very, very limited spending on that. Because Guam has, well, the protocols just changed. So you will see an increase of activities, at least targeting those who have been vaccinated. Right now, I want to say we probably spent about maybe 150,000 across all the markets, just trying to save money so that when Guam is ready, we have the funds to actually go out and do what we need to do to bring people back.
Nadine, is that for the 150,000 for Get Up and Move and another 150,000 for Let's Let's Go Guam, or is it combined?
No. Let's Go Guam, quite frankly, it's Josh with his camera, his phone. He has his own
His
microphone.
talent. Great.
They went out. I have to say the members that they've visited, like Valley of the Latte and whatnot, they have hosted them, knowing that we were planning to do all this.
Yeah.
So really, it's just the cost of staff's time.
Well, I
for the
think
vlog.
with all that hard work that you did for both programs, it needs some funding to push it out for the community as well as our off-island guests to see it, and it needs funding. It needs money to push it out, whether you do it organically or do it through WhatsApp or Facebook or what. It needs to make an impact. I mean, it's a good presentation, a very good presentation. I mean, it grabbed me. We're out there
Thank you.
trying to get people vaccinated, so these videos need to get out there. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping you guys put some more money into that, okay? And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Senator Titlegy. Senator Ada?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone here from the GBB. What is the status of our available of rooms, the availability of our rooms? The hotels, are they ready for visitors to start coming in? I mean, I know we got a couple of hotels that are used for the quarantine facility, but how about the rest of the hotels down in Tumon?
So, if I may, there are a number of hotels that are actually being used by the Department of Defense. And if I recall correctly, there's aside from the quarantine facility and the ISO facility, there's probably another 10 on that list that are actually actively open and operating.
So how many rooms does that make available? I mean, we asked for 1,500 doses, right, to make available for expatriates to come to Guam to get vaccinated. And, hopefully they stay for 2 weeks because they have to wait for the first dose and the second dose. So would we have enough available rooms for those that are coming over to Guam?
Yeah, the short answer, Chairman, Senator, is we have the inventory to accommodate that many doses.
Oh, that's good. Okay, and then also
Based on the average length of stay anticipated and so forth. Because we don't expect all 500 showing up at the same time, for example. This is going to be trickling in and out.
Right.
That was the reason for the pilot test, to get a feel for the kind of volume that would be generated and the kind of issues that we would be encountering.
Yeah, because I know the length of stay will be longer, right, than the usual 3 days, 4 days. And now we're looking at a 2-week stay on Guam.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is really good. And then also, with the rent-a-cars and then the restaurants, I'm glad that we're up at 75%, but perhaps maybe after the governor's address this afternoon, maybe we'll be up at 85%, right, to start accommodating.
If I may add, they may even stay longer, maybe up to 3 months, because the country they're going back to won't give them a visa.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of good news to hear with what's going on, right, as we slowly reopen our economy. And I think that that is the key word, though, is opening. And I think the way we're progressing towards that goal is good. It's slow. We're looking at different ways to bring in tourism, be it regular tourists or Airbnb, right, where they come and get vaccinated and vacation at the same time. And I think that as long as we continue on that track and the local economy can accommodate it and handle it instead of this influx all at one time, then we'll be on, I think, on good terms with everyone.
Exactly.
But that's the only question I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ada. Senator Brown, any questions or comments for the panel?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and certainly good afternoon to all of you. Governor Gutierrez, always a pleasure. Always reflect back on our now 38 years since I was your counterpart for Island Leadership Day. Time goes by so fast. I wanted to ask you, I know, of course, we're all intently focused on our visitor industry and how soon we're going to get it back, but what do you think will trigger it at the other end where be it Taiwan to take the lead? I mean, Japan is not anywhere near where Taiwan is probably in terms of their community right now and vaccinating their citizens. What do you think is going to trigger that, where that flow will start coming out for their tourists so that they're their citizens can come and travel, be it to Guam or other destinations, and be able to go back. What do you think is going to be at that point where we can know what that trigger point is going to be so that they can start traveling? Because of course, wonderful, and I think it's a great initiative during this time that we don't have our visitors to improve our product here on the island. But what do you think will be that so that we know when we can actually anticipate travelers coming to Guam or maybe traveling to other destinations as well?
Yeah. If I can start off with that, that's a good question because we actually are in touch with local TECO office already. The problem is when they come to Guam, whether it's through a bubble arrangement or whatever, when they go back home, they need to undergo their own quarantine protocols. So we started this conversation now about when they go back from Guam, can they can at least be less restrictive in their protocols if they consider Guam already safe within the bubble. And so that conversation is taking place right now, but at the end of the day, there are several Ministry of Health and other issues that they need to work with. So that would be a big trigger in terms of removing some of the obstacle on their return. So maybe,
if I can add to that. So right now, in particularly for Korea, they're at 7% vaccination of their population. However, they changed their protocols so that if somebody is fully vaccinated in South Korea, they're able to leave and come back without quarantine. So they obviously aren't anywhere near Guam's levels yet in terms of vaccination rates, but I anticipate that once their numbers start coming up more on their vaccinations, we'll be able to welcome our Korean visitors back.
And that was the basis for us saying that Korea is a lower hanging fruit in terms of generating volume.
Hi. The key here is, as we are experiencing, is vaccination. Okay, the number or percentage of how many population can be vaccinated will allow the country to open their border. So for instance, if we talk about Japan, their vaccination schedule is way, way slow. And they are following some third world country kind of statistics where they can't get the population ready to be vaccinated until September, the regular age. Wow. So, and then if you continue, that's why they're going through fourth wave right now. And because they were relaxed on their border, currently they closed the border from anybody arriving from Nepal, Pakistan, and India. So even though you have a residency card to live in Japan, they will not allow them to come in because they're going through that situation. So like Nadine said, Korea is way ahead of getting people vaccinated. So basically, you're trying to get the air out of fire. You want to make sure that everybody vaccinated so you don't collapse the medical system. Right now, Japan is in that crisis right now where everybody's getting sick and it's not a regular. If you get vaccinated, the statistic is you're not going to get that bad, right? You're still going to get the COVID. You're not COVID-free. But Japan, because people are not getting vaccinated fast enough, they are in critical condition and get hospitalized and making happen. Even Taiwan, for a while, they were leading the nation as COVID-free island, right? But currently, because of the airline, the crew brought back COVID, they are in the shutdown mode. So they have to shut down all the China Airlines, ground the China Airlines for 14 days. So their reaction is very quick. That's why they were able to get things done very quick. Where other countries, the reaction is slow. That's why the COVID spreads fast. And our Guam too, we were fast. A lot of things the governor reacted pretty quick to get the people, okay, we're on what's that, the number that we're going to make sure that we're going to do, not lockdown, but basically lockdown, right? And we were able to confine everything. So it's fast reaction, be proactive is important. And GBB management is always proactive, not reactive. So that's where we have a success rate.
My second question is, I mean, you know, the challenge is certainly the visitor industry is going through because of not having tourists because of this pandemic. But as we're looking to reopen when the time does come and when it's safe enough to reopen, how do you anticipate in your engagement with the hotel owners and, of course, other support businesses in the tourism industry? Are they going to be able to gear up and have their employees? I mean, we're in this very awkward time because the tourists are not there in the numbers to have them directly, maybe all of them, if their workforce come back to work. Yeah. And not knowing a defined time. You know, you can't leave people in suspension if you're not able to compensate them for their work. Mm-hmm. How quickly do you think our tourism industry with the workforce will be able to gear up? Yeah, I know we're dealing with a lot of unknown factors and trying to put as many pieces in place as we can understand, but what do you gear up, or what's the feedback you're getting from the visitor industry with that concern, just because how in flux we are as a result of this current pandemic situation?
Yeah. So the feedback that I'm hearing is that they really like this Airbnb program because they know it's going to be a slow build-up. Nobody's expecting a flood of people to come in, and this actually gives them a chance to be more strict with their protocols, essentially practice before bigger groups come in. And I think what we're going to see overall is just a slow, very, very slow buildup. I mean, obviously, we don't know when the market's truly going to open up and there'll be travel globally without restriction.
Well, the hotel owners, when we first put out the Airbnb, they were quite, the hotel owners, particularly those that are on the GBB board, they were concerned that the Airbnb is not going to benefit anybody except the quarantine hotel. I said, no, the governor said that if we make this thing work, every U.S. expat that comes in here has to pay for his own room at a hotel that may be designated as COVID floor or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they're looking forward to it because they're going to go beyond the quarantine hotel.
And that way to allow all the different hotels to participate in that program.
Yes, that's right.
With regards to the industry, I mean, again, they're kind of in suspension right now. And again, we don't know, we're going to hope over time that we can increase those numbers, that are coming into the island. But what do you foresee with regards to the workforce?
Again, we're going to see, in my opinion, we're going to see a very slow buildup of the workforce. There's a lot of people who have diversified what they're doing. They became logistics support, whether it's delivering food or providing other services that like grocery shopping, such as that. With the Airbnb, there's going to be a need for additional services where, let's say, you're in a hotel, you're quarantined because you haven't been vaccinated. You're sitting there in a hotel that you paid for. This is not the government facility. You're gonna want, I don't know, maybe you want food. Maybe your charger broke. So again, the beauty of this program is you'll have the travel agents and the ground handlers and the hotels and their staff involved in making this person feel comfortable and welcome. And this slow buildup of employees is probably what's going to happen in the foreseeable future.
That Senator Ada asked, when are we going to open up tourism? And actually, if the way we're seeing the vaccination moving forward quickly here, and the CAR score steadily staying below, is that if we should open up, if the governor sees really something good and not worry about the source countries right now, but open up to our people. There are, there's not 100% are open up to the people, and that's where you're lacking more people working in the industry, in the restaurants, in the stores. But if you open up and say 100% everywhere you go, then that in itself would prove that you can start getting the people back to work. In the meantime, and then augment it with the Airbnb, I think that hopefully that'll work, and that's the key right now is to open up the island, and hopefully the governor will see fit that we are now in a safe zone and she would open up.
Like the President Guterres said, if we're not open, the airlines will not fly. We have to show that we are ready, WTTC, the island is ready, clean, the road is fixed, we got everything ready for you to arrive. Then the airlines will find out that, okay, there is a demand, right? And so we got to show that the island is ready. Because it takes 3 months at least for the airlines to start scheduling their flight, routing-wise, getting their own crew together, pilot. So it takes 3 months as it goes. So even Korea, a long-cost carrier, they need to regroup their people. Korean Airlines converted all their passenger aircraft into cargo. So that means they need to start reconfiguring their airline seats again, or how they're going to, so the thing is right now, entire nation or entire world is practically not locked down, but very, very restrictive. But the mainland, it's not. So a lot of the airlines is deployed into the mainland for the domestic airlines, American, United, whatever. They're flying all over the 50 states. But to international-wise, they're all closing the borders still yet because of the crisis all over. But Guam, we're lucky that we're 3.5 hours from all this Asia Pacific, and they are ready to come. But they're not going to come all 500, 1,000, get 10 airlines coming all at one time. They're saying, we're going to trickle back in, and that way we can, as a hotel, we can get people ready and get them started working. So the demand is, let's get the domestic demand first, get ourselves ready, retrain them, get the facility ready for the tourists to come. By that time, Japan will be ready, Korea will be ready, vaccinated and ready to travel. So that's what we're doing right now as a GVB management is working very hard, and on behalf of the board of directors, we're supporting that good effort, trying to get this island opened up and cleaned up. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the response. I don't doubt, Governor Guterres, you're going to keep on the pulse of this issue as you do with all the key things that you work on. And certainly hope, Madam Chair, that we continue maybe a regular engagement as we move forward, just so that ourselves and the public can continue to get status updates on where we're at. I mean, it's unprecedented, obviously, what we're going through. We would never have imagined, our tourism industry where it is today because of this pandemic. I mean, we were out a few weeks because of a typhoon, we were always able to recover and get back into business and do what we needed to do, and this was unimaginable. So certainly to sustain through this time and hopefully come out better at the other end, I think we're all on focus, and I think can all come to consensus with regards to that desired outcome. So thank you for your time and your input this afternoon. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown, and I do commit from this committee to continue the discussions with GVB as much as possible to have these informational hearings. I do have one more question about the plans for outbound testing of passengers. Let's say the travelers for Korea now that are vaccinated are ready to come to Guam, and I know before they return they have to have a negative test upon return. Do we have any plans to provide that service to them or find an affordable way to give that service to plan for them?
Well, let me say, today we tabled $2 million for the Airbnb for non-U.S. citizens. A question was asked, what's that going to be? Probably we may have to front up some money for vaccines and or testing kits, so that we want to see that we can combine the two to see if that was necessary. But, for those people that are vaccinated here, they may not have to be tested to go back anymore to their country. But we do have in that budget, the $2 million, once we start working on that appropriation, is to include the testing part of that equation.
The issue on the PCR test on departure, arrival, whatever, the current COVID is so fluid. And as long as people starting getting vaccinated and we can control the infection rate down, they might be relaxing. The inbound country might relax, or they might get PCR test upon arrival too. As we speak, all the PCR tests is getting quicker now to get it the result, right? So that means even though we make a decision now, it might change in 1 month how fast they can do. Like in Japan, they can get their PCR tested in 20 minutes, sometime 1 hour. So because Japan is in crisis right now, people are not leaving or coming anyway, right? So we're talking about, okay, the fastest quick market that we're looking at right now is Korea. So if Korea is going to be tested upon arrival in Korea and Incheon Airport, then so be it. If the airlines does not require PCR test to be negative, positive upon boarding, then they don't need to be tested. So it's so moving. Target is so moving. We cannot make our decisions. So as we develop and know what is really the rules of engagement, what we should be doing. So we are always on top of with the government people at MOFA in Korea or Japan or Taiwan. We're constantly communicating with them. What is a new protocol? What do you expect for people to have? And before they come, they will ask us, can you provide this kind of service? Then we will re-gear and then adjust to that need. Because they want to make sure that when they send their citizens out of Korea to come to Guam, they want to make sure what we can provide. So that's where we can start working, how we can satisfy their needs too. So, we're not just, we're always in contact with them, the travel agent, the government officials. So as a GBB, we're in constant contact with the Consul General here, Korea, Taipei, Japan. So make sure that the communication is there so we don't surprise them or they will be abreast of everything what's going on in Guam.
All right, we'll be sure to ask in the next informational hearing again based on all the changing factors if that will be a decision you make down the line. Well, thank you very much. If my colleagues don't have any other questions right now, I'd like to thank them for being here, hanging out with me the whole day actually. Since 9 this morning we've been in hearings. And to you, the panel from GVB, thank you for your time and all of the information that you shared with us. With that, the time now is 3:54 p.m. and this informational hearing is now adjourned. Siduos Masi, everyone, and have a good weekend.